Well, hello everybody. This is Pastor Jeremy Bannister of the Next Generation Ministries, and we are so glad that you are joining us today. My partner in crime, Trinidad Gerardo, unfortunately, that is his normal spot right there. He is not going to be able to join us today, but we have a great broadcast for you, and so some of our interactions are going to be a little bit shorter, which probably means this episode will be a little bit shorter, but we are excited because this is our first resource episode for you guys. One of the things that is on our hearts is that we want to share with you resources that make your job at discipling your children in the Lord a lot easier. And so that's what we're looking at today. Is we're looking at a number of different resources. We've chosen 3 overall, chosen a book, we've chosen a podcast, and we've chosen a website actually today. So that the third thing is always going to be a little bit changing. And these resources are for you as parents to be able to use in practical ways. I think the theme that we can say that both me and Trinidad kind of hit on beforehand was just kind of this idea of intentionality, this idea of a paradigm shift, if you will. The book that I've chosen today, and we're going to start with that. You can see our website up above, thenextgenerationministries.com. If you want to find out more about us, you can go to that place there. We also have resources for you in that place, and we would love it if you would check all the things that are there for you out. But the first resource that we're going to look at today as we take these things down is I want to look at a book that had a profound impact on the ministry that we're doing at the Next Generation Ministries. It's called Family Driven Faith by Voddie Baucham. And Voddie Baucham's been in a lot in the news concerning his views on social justice movement, the idea of critical race theory and critical theory that have come out, and a lot of his current book on fault lines is getting a lot of press. But really, this book, Family Driven Faith, that he had a number of years back, is a book that deeply and profoundly impacted me as a youth pastor at church. One of the things that he tackles within the book, and it's written for families, it's written for leaders, it's written for youth ministers, and ministers just in general, is bringing back the idea of giving the parents the power to disciple their children that our current culture and the current church culture is kind of taken away from that. And so what he does in the book is he builds a thesis on many different things in the book that talk about how we got to the position that we're in within the church and why there's such a needed paradigm shift. I can honestly say that this book challenged me both as a father and challenged me as a minister of what it means to be a discipler of faith toward youth, whether they're in my home or outside of my home, and how I can be an encouragement to parents to create a paradigm, if you will, that helps them to do the things that God has called them to do. I think one of the things that you will hear me and Trinidad talk about a lot is this idea that we as parents are called according to the scripture in Deuteronomy chapter 6 and Deuteronomy 11, Psalm 78, Ephesians chapter 6, that is, as parents, we are supposed to be the primary discipleship makers of our children. And yet, oftentimes, we have outsourced this to the church. And Voddie Baucham, what he does is he brings that challenge to parents specifically and to ministers to create a different paradigm that challenges more on the parents' end of things of being the disciplers of faith, not leaving it to the church and not leaving it to a youth group or a children's ministry or even the pastor on Sunday mornings, but rather really as parents taking up that role as teacher and to do so. One of the interesting things that he mentions within this family-driven faith, because the ministries that he had while he was here in the United States when he was pastoring a church, he had a family-led church. And what that means is it was a family-driven church. And that idea behind it was that we're not going to have a whole lot of programs outside of what we normally do. And all of our events, all of our programs, all of our outreach are going to be family oriented. We're not going to have an age segregated or a segregation based upon genders or age or categories. We're simply going to have outreaches. We're going to have everything that's family oriented. So if it's an outreach, it's a family oriented outreach. If it's a conference, it's a family oriented conference. And it was really interesting to see him have that kind of approach and say that this is what we're going to do within the context of our ministries here. In doing so, it challenges the paradigm of what we currently have. The expectations of parents to raise up their kids in the Lord is something that is just an expectation concerning the family that's there. And so, Family Driven Faith, like I said, great book, something I would encourage you guys to invest in, to take a look at, to see how it's going to challenge you as a family. One of the things that he mentioned was that because of his model, he had attracted a lot of homeschooling families into his particular church. And one of the things he mentions inside the book was that the reason that he believes that the homeschooled families were brought in is because homeschool families were already educating their kids in every other area. And so homeschool families are teaching their kids, math, teaching their kids reading, teaching their kids writing, teaching their kids science. And as they have seen their role as disciplers in these other areas, it was an easy step forward to say, okay, well, of course it makes sense for me to also be training my children in the Lord as well. And so for them, it's just one more step into that. And of course, myself as a homeschool family, it was an easy step as well. But my step personally wasn't so much because the book told me a family-driven faith, but rather what the scripture says and concerning that. And so creating an environment in which discipleship takes place is just an important role. Family-driven faith is going to give you as a family the tools I think that you need to be able to start changing that paradigm and understand why that paradigm needs to shift, why fathers and mothers need to be the one who are stepping forward in faith for their kids and demonstrating in every area, in your home, in your practice, in every area, what you need to do in order to create that type of atmosphere in your life. And so I think it's a great resource. Looking forward to hopefully some of you will go off and do that. If you check the description of our live stream below, we've got 3 different places on there. I think Christian Books is one of them. Voddie Baucham Ministries is another. And, of course, Amazon. We have all 3 of those. So wherever you normally buy your books, it's a great place to get this one. And I highly recommend it for you and your family. And so second thing we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the podcast that Trinidad was going to mention to us. It was a Crossway Broad podcast, and specifically, he was going to talk about the Family Discipleship 101. It's a podcast that aired on August 16th, 2020 on the Crossway broadcast. So again, in the description, you can click on that, and it will take you to the Crossway broadcast, and from there you can search out this title or the date that will take you there. Again, this was one of those idea-oriented podcasts. It was just really, really good. I heard it. I was looking forward to interacting with Trinidad concerning that because I know he had a whole lot more to say about it than I'm going to. But the podcast was an amazing podcast that talked about the idea of creating discipleship and discipleship opportunities for your children, including milestones and markers and I can't remember the 3 M's that he talked about, and it's in memories that you are supposed to create as parents that help you along in this discipleship. And he covers a wide range. It's just a 35-minute podcast. It's not a very long podcast, but this 35-minute podcast is going to be huge for you as families because he challenges a number of different ways in which you can bring discipleship into your house. And not just that, again, in the same way that Voddie Baucham's book creates this paradigm shift and this intentionality as parents to take up that mantle of discipleship for your kids. The same thing happens within this 35-minute episode. In it, you're going to be challenged to start creating a different environment within your family. And as we get started on our podcast, and as we're looking at these resources that we want to encourage and talk to you about as family members, one of the things I think that that permeates our conversation is that of intentionality. You have to be intentional as parents in getting discipleship into your children's lives, because the world that we live in is not going to work for us. It's actually going to work against us, where we don't create those opportunities, and we don't create that because there's always something out there that wants to distract you and me from being the disciplers that God has called us to. And so if you would, one of the things that I would love for you guys to do, if you've read the book or if you've looked at if you've listened to the podcast, comment below on what you think was the most profound point from the podcast, the profound point from the book that you've taken from your life and that you want to employ in your family's life. And that's something that would be of great interest to us here at the Next Generation Ministries. Finally, we want to talk about a third resource for you. And this resource is a website, and it's pluggedincom. And I want to show you a little bit of that website right here. So let's take a look here real quick. And so what we have here is this is the Plugged In website. As you can see, what I love about this website, it's so practical. What this website does is help you as parents to review a various number of resources that your kids are involved with. It talks about movies, television shows, music, games, books, YouTube channels, which I really, really like that they've added that in the recent years, so that you can review them as parents. And they have this little system in there concerning the movies and the like, and the television shows. Like for here, content caution, you can see that with kids it's moderate, with teens and with adults. The Troll Hunters, Rise of the Titans, it's light. And as you go through here, it talks about the content you're going to find on these movies, on these television shows, on the websites that you go to, the blogs that are there, the books and the games that are out there, the YouTube channels. And it's just an invaluable resource. I found, especially as my children were young and I was curious about the content of new movies that were coming out, or the content of different television shows that were coming out. And I was curious what kind of content was in them because I wasn't familiar with it, but I knew it was popular. Plugged In was an invaluable resource, and you can go to pluggedincom, and that's where you'll find all of this fantastic thing in there, and you'll be able to rate for yourself and talk about it yourself concerning the content that's there. And that content, you'll be able to judge whether it's appropriate for your children no matter what age they are. I love the fact that it talks about how many cuss words are in it. You can go right through there and talk about, like with movies, it talks about cuss words, how they're using the Lord's name in vain, sexuality, what things are in there. And it helps you as a parent kind of meander through those things, because our children are different. I remember that, at least for my youngest, even at a young age, was always enamored with everything kind of sexual or inappropriate. I don't know if you have that one child that if there's something, even in the most innocent movie that you could watch, if there was an inappropriate thing to find, you might have that one child that's the one word they're going to focus in on. That's the one scene they're going to be enamored with. My daughter was that child. And so Plugged In helped us to kind of navigate through some of those things that seemed maybe a little problematic for us. And so hopefully it would help you as parents to do that as well. And so this episode is going to be a little bit short because there's not a lot of interaction between me and Trinidad like we'd want, but we'd love some interaction with you. And so in the comments below, we would love for you to start putting some questions up for our next episode next week, as we're going to do our Q&A episode. And we're going to have questions that are commonly asked by parents. And if you have a question that's pressing on you concerning discipleship, concerning your kids, concerning discipline, whatever it might be, we want to be able to be a resource to help you during that time concerning you and your family. I would encourage you guys to go to our Next Generation Ministries.com. If you're wanting some more resources, we have our blueprints that are for you and your family. Those blueprints are 100% free. You can request them from our website. We're also looking for supporters. So if you see what we're doing and understand the ministry that we're trying to do, we're trying to bring great content for parents to help them disciple their kids and empower you guys as parents to do that. If that is something that you see of supreme value, then would you consider supporting us by going to the nextgenerationministries.com? Finally, we have the Discipleship Begins at Home conference that is coming up Friday and Saturday, this Saturday. If you have not signed up for it, my huge encouragement is for you to do that. You can go to womeninapologetics.com to sign up for the conference. I'm one of the speakers that are there, along with many other great people who are part of the Christian community. We have Krista Bontrager, we have Monique Dewson, we have Ryan Pauly, we have Elizabeth Urbanovitz. We would love for you to be a part of this conference with us, and it's the whole purpose of the conference is to help you as parents to disciple your children in the Lord. And so we really encourage you to come and be a part of that. It's Friday night. It's a good portion of the day Saturday. It's well worth your time. If you find that you can't attend the conference, or you're going to be gone or absent during part of it, at registration, you can pay an extra $15 for it and get the recordings to be able to watch this conference at your own time, at your own leisure, so that if you are not able to be a part of it this weekend, you could choose next weekend to do it, or you can choose Wednesday and a Thursday with your family. It would be a great time for you guys to do that. So we really encourage you to go and be a part of that. But I want to thank you guys for coming today. It's going to be a short episode. We're so thankful that you came and showed up for this small episode, getting these resources out. I pray that you'll check out those resources. The Family Driven Faith book by Voddie Baucham, the Crossway podcast that talked about Family Discipleship 101. Definitely want to check that one out. And finally, just in your own time, meander through that Plugged In website, the pluggedincom website, because it'll be a fantastic resource for you and your family. God bless you, and we will talk with you again.